Polly Bergen is a lovely actress and TV star who looks stunning. Get a Pepsi-Cola. Thrilled refreshment. Pepsi offered Polly Bergen $50,000 a year in 1953 to be their ideal girl. She agreed to the terms. What she didn't know was that she had to weigh in every month, stay under 3 pounds, and follow rules for every part she could play. In ads for 4 years, she danced and smiled while her acting dreams were put on hold. Then, in 1957, she made a choice that changed everything. Pepsi didn't like the part she played. The next morning, a newspaper story made her look terrible. The deal was over in a few months, and Hollywood stopped calling. This is the story of how getting an Emmy almost cost her everything. She was born in Knoxville, Tennessee, on July 14, 1930. Her name at birth was Nellie Paulina Bergen. She came from a very poor home. William, her dad, couldn't read or write at all. Lucy, her mother, only went to school until the 3rd grade. William did hard, risky work in construction. He would sometimes come home from work with a broken back and have to lie flat for weeks. To get by during the hard times of the Great Depression, the family often had to depend on welfare. There wasn't much in their house. One time, Polly said that the only thing that was on the wall was a silk picture of Jesus. Though she was only a child, she ended up cooking, washing, and cleaning while her father kept getting better. Being responsible from a young age changed her. She became strong, but she had to grow up too quickly. They didn't stay put for long. In the 1930s, the family moved back and forth between Ohio and Indiana in search of the next building job. They didn't have any roots. Polly moved around a lot for school, so she never had time to make real friends. Welfare took care of them when her dad couldn't work or was hurt. But in their strict Southern Baptist world, people looked down on people who needed help. Barb, Polly's sister, was with her the whole time. However, Polly stepped up and took care of the whole house like a second mother. Polly began to dream about something bigger even as she moved from place to place. She saw how being poor hurt her family. Sought a means to escape. She got a job on a small radio station in Richmond, Indiana, in 1944, when she was only 14 years old. The station was called WKBV. Her dad also took part in the crime. People were shocked by her voice. People thought she was a black woman in her 25s. No one thought she was a Tennessee young white girl. It seemed like her voice was older and fuller. Because she had been listening to Sarah Vaughan records for hours. Afterwards, she said, everyone thought I was 25 and black. I was 15 years old. Her first paid show was a country song that earned her $3. To her poor family, that was like winning the lottery. That small radio job was the first real sign that her voice might be able to help her get out of poverty. In just 2 years, Polly quit school and moved out to follow her dream of working in show business. Now she was 16. It hurt her parents a lot. They wanted her to get married, have kids, and be happy. She instead packed her things and left everything they stood for. In the 1940s, that kind of choice would have been unthinkable for a Southern Baptist family. Polly knew she didn't want a life of small chances after what she had been through. What happened after she left was the beginning of everything else. It was 1949, and she was in Hollywood. She was 19 years old and lived by herself. They turned her down right away because their Southern accent was too strong and she didn't sound like a starring lady. She hadn't been to acting school or anything fancy. She was just a poor girl with a dream and a voice. To make ends meet, she worked as a waitress in rundown bars. It was very small, and she lived with other struggling artists. Sometimes there wasn't even a bed, just a couch. She would go home every night after her jobs and work on speaking without an accent. She looked at old movies, tried to talk like great actresses, and tried to change herself from the inside out. He gave her a chance when he saw her playing with a neighborhood band one day. His name was Hal B. Wallace. That made everything different. But before that, it had been months of broken hearts, low pay, and just getting by. In 1954, when she was 24, she got her first real record deal. She got signed by Jubilee Records. Not in 1949, as some news stories say. Jubilee was a small New York record company. The company had only 27 workers in 1957. A big hit for them was the Orioles' Crying in the Chapel in 1953. Polly joined the group just as things were getting going. Her first lessons didn't go well. The songs made her laugh, so she didn't like them. Jubilee, on the other hand, let her record a 10-inch LP called Little Girl Blue with her piano that same day. That record, in a quiet way, became a gem. After that, the nightclub trips were not at all what people think they would be like. She sang in small places all over the Midwest. She sometimes slept on the tour bus instead of paying for a hotel because the money was so bad. There were no real places to change. She changed her clothes in the bathroom or closet. Men who were drunk yelled bad things at her, touched her, and heckled her, and no one stopped them. Almost didn't exist. She was asked to work 7 nights a week for about $50 plus tips. She kept going anyway. She had to. There was no other plan B. The Little Girl Blue album finally became known in 1955. It got to number 10 on the Billboard 200. It was a dreamy mix of harp, piano, and guitar. There were no drums on it. Some people said it felt like a flying room at midnight. When the World Was Young was her most famous song. It wasn't just singing. She used it to tell a story. She was being compared to Helen Morgan, who was also a dramatic singer who was known for making songs into full-on emotional shows. It all got recorded in one sitting. Plain and simple honesty became Polly's mark. She didn't want to be the typical blonde singer with a fake smile, though. She wasn't going to act stupid to get more songs. Her music had to mean something to her. She chose songs with true stories, like French ballads with tough words. The record companies did not like it. They said those songs were too hard for women to sing because they were too intelligent. Polly did not mind. She didn't want to look cute but be lonely. It cost her something to be heard. Some people really liked her music, but it didn't sell as well as other artists. In 1953, she ran into a rough spot. When she was in a Broadway review called John Murray Anderson's Almanac, she hurt her voice cords very badly. She only sang one song, but her voice was too high for it to stand out. She had to have surgery. That took a long time. She couldn't do anything for months. She lost everything: money, gigs, and money. Since she was a child, she had smoked. It made things worse. After she got better, she had to learn how to sing again, but this time she had to breathe better and do it the right way. She almost lost her job because of that injury, but it made her stronger. She first appeared on TV in the same year, on NBC's Your Hit Parade. It cost $24,000 to make each show, and Polly got $750. The producers made her sing the top 7 songs of the week, even though the style didn't fit her singing. She refused to sing rock songs in a straight pop way when they told her to. They said they would fire her after just 3 shows. But then the scores came in. The scores for her episodes were 8.2 points higher than average. From 1953 to 1954, she was in a total of 12 episodes, but some directors didn't like how brave she was. The next one was Arena in 1953. It was a $752,000 3D Western, and Polly had a big part in it. Ruth Danvers is the ex-wife of a bull rider. She had to scream and cry while seeing someone die on TV. $1,022,000 was made at the ticket office. MGM liked her so much that they gave her a $180,000 deal for 5 movies. People all of a sudden saw that she could act. Some people said she showed a lot of emotions. She could have stayed with MGM, but she quit to do more important work on TV. A lot of people said it was career suicide, but Polly didn't care. She became the host of the Pepsi-Cola Playhouse on ABC in 1955. She was the host of 47 shows and made $2,500 each. That kind of show being run by a woman was very rare back then. Her contract had a special language that let her turn down scripts that made women look weak or stupid. Pepsi didn't like it, but her shows gave people 23% more attention. The Pepsi-Cola for today goes with it. Pick up a Pepsi. A quick pick-me-up. Few people had ever talked directly to the crowd like she did. She was so brave that people called her the Pepsi-Cola girl, and that extra work in ads brought her $85,000 a year until 1958. Things were still not fair behind the scenes. In the 1950s, male co-hosts made between $3,000 and $5,000 a show, while she only made $700. The people who worked with her told her to soften up, smile more, lose 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and never talk about important things. She had to have a guardian on set like a child and had to wear dresses and heels even during practices. They also told her she couldn't sing jazz songs that were too tricky for women, even though guys always sang those kinds of songs. She didn't give up. She was on the General Electric Theater in 1955, which was presented by Ronald Reagan. Each show paid her $4,000, which is 4 times her normal pay. In the dark corner, where she played a wife who was mentally ill, 24.6 million people watched. Finally, critics understood her as more than just a singer. The NYT said she had more depth than they thought she would have. Reagan himself told her that she had great acting instincts. Everything changed after those 3 shows. When Polly Bergen was only 19, her life changed in a quiet way. It took place in a movie where her name wasn't even in the titles. In the movie, she played a nightclub singer and winner for less than 3 minutes. The fighting movie from 1949 that made Kirk Douglas famous. Even so, Polly stood out in some way. The way she sang. The way she walked around. Kirk Douglas also saw it. He went straight to the studio after shooting and told her she was great. Sure, Columbia Pictures said yes. After just one scene, they gave her a $150,000 deal for 7 years. That's how it started. At that point, in 1951, she was making $25,000 a movie and was in comedies with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. She was one of Hollywood's best-paid new stars, but things weren't always funny behind the scenes. When she was on Broadway in 1953, she pushed her singing too far. One song almost ended her career. She had to have risky surgery on her voice cords when she was only 23 because her throat gave out. She got better after 2 years. In 1955, when she got back, she put out Little Girl Blue and slowly started singing again. But that close call changed her. From then on, she was more picky about the jobs she did and focused more on acting. In the same year, she got married to Freddie Fields. He had famous clients like Judy Garland and Paul Newman as an agency. It looked like a power couple from the outside. But it was terrible when no one was around. Freddie was in charge of almost everything Polly did for 18 years. For his part, she agreed to give him half of her pay. He forced her to do things that helped his other clients because he was strong. He even came to the set sometimes to make her look bad in front of everyone. She broke down while shooting Move Over and The Caretakers. Sweetheart. Later, her diary showed that he cut her off from her friends and said he would end her job if she left. Records from the court showed that she had lost about $2 million because of the marriage when they finally got a divorce in 1973. The suffering went on until the end of her life. Things got worse in 1956. Polly had been a part of a group that fought for human rights. When the government started looking into people for possible ties to communism, they asked her to name names. She said no. The companies cut her out as a punishment. Her part in the last wagon was taken away completely. That year, her income dropped from $200,000 to $15,000. She had to give up her house and move into a small room. There were people who wanted to hire her, but no one would. They were afraid of what the government would do. She looked for work for 2 years but couldn't find any. Then, out of the blue, she came back in 1957. She put out Bergen Sings Morgan, a song honoring torch singer Helen Morgan. The record came out at the same time that she played Morgan in a dramatic TV special. And the time was just right. It was a big hit. Some people thought her singing was too loud and even over the top. It did work, though. Those songs and her performance earned her an Emmy in 1958. She became well known again in an instant. Not for long, though. It was getting heated behind the scenes between Polly and the directors and conductors. She cared a lot about her accomplishments. Every song had to mean something to her. Some of her co-workers said she was too hard to work with. The fights over plans couldn't be stopped by anyone, not even her fiancé Morty Stevens, who worked with Sammy Davis Jr. Polly wouldn't sing songs that didn't sound real. That hurt her hopes of getting bigger radio hits. She stayed true to herself, though. Then there was another medical emergency. Polly had a life-threatening ectopic pregnancy in 1959, when she was at the top of her game. It almost killed her. At age 17, she had an abortion that was against the law. Now, doctors told her she couldn't have children. She and Freddie Fields adopted 2 children in the end. She felt that pain all the time. She put everything she had into her music. People could tell she was sad in her voice on her 1960 album All Alone by the Telephone. In the same year, her smoking habit started to hurt her. Up until the late 1960s, people could either sing or smoke. She preferred to smoke. In an interview with CBS years later, she said she did it. She said she'd rather smoke than sing another night and day song. She lost some of her range and her speech got rougher. In 1963, her last record came out. She was only 33 years old. She stopped making records after that, but she kept working. She went back to Broadway in 2001 in Follies, where she played Carlotta Campion, a dying star who sings I'm Still Here. Polly was age 71. She had very bad asthma. Her legs were hurt. She had quit smoking only 2 years before and worked with a voice teacher to fix what was broken in her voice. Even though she needed air during practice, she got through it. She was up for a Tony Award. People who saw her act said it broke their hearts because it felt so real. Yes, it was. In 1955, Champagne Complex was the first show she did on Broadway. People were upset about that play because her character got drunk and started taking off her clothes. New York City wasn't used to that. Some people liked her, but older stars looked down on her behind the scenes. The practices were heated. Even though the play was short, it showed that she was good on stage. It was a musical version of Pride and Prejudice, and she played a part in it in 1959. She only had 3 weeks to get ready. The show didn't do well. One reviewer said that Polly Bergen is as of the moment as Mickey Mantle. That review was put in a frame and kept on her desk. It was her way of getting back at him. In the late 1970s, she started having trouble with money. The year she got married was 1982. Her husband's name was Jeff Enderville. His plans didn't work out. They were no longer married by 1990, and Polly owed a lot of money. She had to sell her homes, art, jewelry, and everything else she owned. To make money, she even sold beauty items on TV. She paid everything off in 1993. We bought a small house in Montana that is out of the way and quiet. Pepsi hired her as a spokesperson in 1953, which was the start of one of the strangest times in her life. For their new light drink, they wanted a clean, good-natured star. She got $50,000 a year for it, which is about $500,000. The rules for that deal were very strict, but it made the news. More than 3 pounds could not be added to her. She had to check her weight every month. For some reason, she couldn't play any parts that required drinking or were problematic. She had to get permission before going out in public. She said later that it made her feel like a company owned her. She could only act in movies that were good for families. Her fame made her feel trapped, though. She filmed more than 20 Pepsi ads between 1953 and 1957. A lot of people didn't like some of them. In one, she danced on the beach in a swimmer's while singing a song. Some religious groups were very angry. A lot of people complained to TV stations. Some ads were moved from prime time to late night. But people paid the most attention to those ads. They were loved by everyone. Getting into trouble made them famous. Polly stopped being careful in 1957. It was her plan to play Helen Morgan. a real-life torch singer who died at age 41 from drinking too much. It was for a live show on Playhouse 90 on CBS. Not only was her act on May 16, 1957, good, it was also scary. She sang like her real life was falling apart. She showed a woman falling apart on stage because of fame, booze, and broken hearts. Polly was still known as the clean-cut Pepsi girl a few months ago. Now she was crying, drunk, upset, and honest. The country was shocked that night. She got the award. She changed history. But the New York Herald-Tribune ran a story the next morning that broke her heart. Pepsi girl starts drinking alcohol. The phrase spread all over. Don't take it as a praise. It was a poke. It linked her new life to being shamed in public. Pepsi freak out. Their ads didn't say this would happen. They called meetings for emergencies. It was over with her by the end of 1958. Every year, she lost $75,000. These days, that's worth more than $750,000. Executives wanted to get rid of her. Hollywood came next. People in charge of movies in 1958 and 1959 told her she was just a business girl. They did not care about the award. They saw smiles and soda. Warner Brothers stopped getting calls. MGM didn't do anything. The irony was terrible. She tried out for movie after movie and kept getting turned down. Her best work was the thing that made it impossible for her to do more. The news wouldn't let it go. She was called the Pepsi girl over and over again. She turned into a joke. There was a lot of damage. She missed out on jobs and projects worth more than $200,000 over the course of 2 years. Today, that's almost $2 million. To make ends meet, she did odd jobs on TV and in bars. Her voice hurt from the stress. In the end, she had to have surgery. Polly's singing career never got back on track, but she didn't give up. She came back as a surprise in 1963 in The Caretakers. She's playing a crazy woman in a movie theater. The scene where things broke down hit like a freight train. Her name was put in for a Golden Globe. In the same year, she played Gregory Peck's scared wife in the movie Cape Fear. Directors saw her as more than just a pitch woman for the first time in years. After that, she made something new. She began the Polly Bergen Company in 1966. She had a big plan for a skin cream called Oil of the Turtle and only $1,500. It went off. A huge number of women bought it. She grew her small business into a $6 million empire in just 7 years. She had her own room and worked from 9 to 5. A lot of people said she was just another actress trying to sell beauty goods. They were wrong about her. She sold the business to Faberge in 1973 and kept running it afterwards. She got out of the box Hollywood put her in, but time moves quickly. Polly's smoke-free 50-year habit caught up with her in the 1990s. Emphysema was very bad. Her famous voice got weaker. It was hard for her to breathe. She did act until she was in her 70s, though. She played Stella Wingfield, Lynette's sneaky mother, on Desperate Housewives. The next time she was nominated for an Emmy was between 2007 and 2011. She played an unknown woman from Tony's family's past on The Sopranos as well. She wrote her story in 1982. She talked about everything, including bad advertising deals and directors making fun of her. She also talked about how she used her pain to gain power. People bought a lot of her books. That's not all women saw her as, they saw her as a leader. She told people the truth, gave them advice, and pushed them to stand up for themselves in jobs that didn't always treat them well. She died in Southbury, Connecticut, on September 20, 2014. She was 84 years old. When she died, a story in Hollywood came to an end. Not everyone knew her from Cape Fear or Kisses for My President, where she played the first female president of the U.S. People knew her as the woman who fought back after being called weak and forgotten. She taught me how to start over, be different, and keep going even when everyone else stops.